Nothing says good intentions, quite like burning down the kitchen while trying to cook dinner, or calling 911 because you couldn't figure out how to pump gas. Humanity has this incredible talent for taking the phrase, "I was only trying to help," and turning it into a demolition derby. We're talking about people who rescue cats by getting themselves stuck in trees, or who volunteer at work and end up deleting the company's entire database. And here's the scary part. These disasters always start with a smile and a little too much confidence. 1. A guy once tried to help his buddy fix a stuck zipper by pouring super glue on it. Yes, super glue. The logic was, apparently, if it can hold together a broken chair, surely it can liberate denim. Instead, he fused the zipper to both sides of the pants and effectively invented wearable chastity jeans. The worst part? He then tried to cut them off, missed, and sliced his friend's leg. Congratulations, you've turned a stuck zipper into an ER visit and a new scar story, beginning with the phrase, "So my friend thought he was helping." 2. A well-meaning uncle thought it would be helpful to dry off his nephew's wet phone by sticking it in the oven. The oven, like the world's dumbest rotisserie chicken. Of course, the phone didn't survive. It swelled, melted, and permanently fused to the oven rack. The uncle's defense? I've seen people put rice in it, so heat should work faster. Yeah, because the next logical step after rice is 375 degrees Fahrenheit. The only thing he actually cooked was his credibility as a functioning adult. 3. Picture this. A man notices his neighbor's car stuck in the snow. He races out to help, hooks it up to his pickup truck, and floors it. Instead of gently pulling the car free, he yanks the entire bumper clean off. The neighbor now has the same car, minus dignity, and plus body damage worth 3 paychecks. The man, covered in self-righteousness, probably thought, "At least I tried." Sir, you didn't help. You just reenacted Fast and Furious Midlife Crisis Edition. 4. A woman once helped her coworker by cleaning his desk while he was at lunch. Sounds sweet. Until she threw out a small, unassuming USB drive because, and I quote, "it looked old." That USB contained the only copy of a client's financial records. Years of data, trashed, because she mistook it for a free thumb drive from a 2005 tech conference. The company lost thousands, he lost his job, and she proudly declared, "I was just trying to tidy up." Somewhere, Marie Kondo wept. 5. A man wanted to help his wife with dinner by preheating the oven. A normal, loving gesture, except he didn't notice she had hidden a plastic cutting board in there to save counter space. By the time she came back, their entire house smelled like a chemical warfare test zone, and the oven was coated in liquefied plastic goo. They couldn't use the oven for weeks, and every time they turned on the stove, it smelled like a burning Tupperware factory. Nothing says romantic dinner like carbon monoxide poisoning. 6. A tourist once spotted someone struggling with a heavy suitcase on an escalator. Noble opportunity to help, right? He grabbed the bag, lifted it with flair, and, oops, accidentally triggered the emergency stop button. The escalator halted instantly, sending dozens of people tumbling like a human Jenga tower. 3 sprained ankles later, the Good Samaritan stood there with the suitcase in hand, realizing he'd just weaponized basic public infrastructure. Congratulations, hero. You saved one suitcase and destroyed an entire morning commute. 7. At a wedding, a groomsman thought he'd help keep the candles lit on the altar by topping them off with extra fuel. He grabbed what he thought was a decorative oil bottle. Spoiler, it was lighter fluid. The ceremony didn't end with vows. It ended with a fire extinguisher and a melted table centerpiece. Nothing sets the mood for eternal love like explaining to grandma why the flower arrangements are smoldering. Shakespeare promised tragedy and comedy in weddings. This guy delivered both in under 10 seconds. 8. A well-meaning father once helped his kid with a school project on volcanoes. Instead of the classic baking soda and vinegar, he decided to show off his science skills by adding dry ice and a little sealed container. The project erupted, all right, straight through the classroom ceiling tiles. The school was evacuated, the sprinklers went off, and the kid got an F because technically it counted as an explosive device. Helping your child's education is noble. Accidentally building a pipe bomb is less so. 9. A grandma tried to help her grandson do laundry by tossing his favorite wool sweater in with hot water and heavy spin. She proudly folded it afterward and left it on his bed. When he came home, he found his once cozy sweater had shrunk down to Barbie doll size. Her response? At least it's clean. He couldn't wear it, but hey, at least his action figures finally had something stylish to keep them warm in winter. 10. A man saw his friend faint during a sports game and decided to help with CPR. The problem? He had only ever seen CPR on TV and thought it involved pounding the chest like Donkey Kong on a bongo drum. He broke 2 ribs before the actual paramedics arrived. His defense? I saw it on Grey's Anatomy. Imagine surviving a medical emergency only to have your ribs broken by someone cosplaying as a defibrillator. 11. At an office potluck, a woman thought she'd help everyone stay healthy by swapping out the sugar in the dessert tray with salt. Her big reveal came when the boss bit into a brownie and instantly looked like he'd licked a salt block in the desert. The kicker? She smiled proudly and said, "See? I saved you from diabetes because nothing says employee appreciation like weaponized sodium." 12. A neighbor once offered to water someone's houseplants while they were away. Harmless, right? Except she didn't know the difference between watering and flooding. She poured so much water into the potted plants that the ceiling below started leaking. The family returned to a jungle of drowned ferns and a downstairs neighbor demanding compensation. She shrugged and said, "At least they didn't die of thirst." True, just drowning. 13. A man decided to help his buddy fix a leaky faucet. Instead of calling a plumber, he grabbed a roll of duct tape and a prayer. The result was a water explosion that turned the kitchen into SeaWorld in under 2 minutes. The final tally: 1 ruined ceiling, 2 soaked rugs, and a friendship hanging by a soggy thread. DIY doesn't always mean do it yourself. Sometimes it means destroy it yourself. 14. A mother thought she'd be helpful by trimming her teenage son's hair before picture day. One wrong snip later, the trim turned into a buzz cut shaped vaguely like the Batman symbol. He cried. She said, "Hair grows back," and the school yearbook immortalized him as Gotham's saddest hero. To this day, somewhere in a dusty high school archive, Batman is still crying in algebra class. 15. A well-intentioned friend offered to help his roommate study by making flashcards. Sweet idea, until the roommate discovered all the answers were wrong. Instead of memorizing key terms for his biology exam, he'd been reciting nonsense definitions like mitochondria equals the social media of the cell. He failed the test, of course, and the friend shrugged with, "At least I tried." Yes, you tried. And also redefined science as complete fiction. 16. A husband thought he'd surprise his wife by helping with laundry. He proudly washed everything, together. Whites, darks, reds, her delicate new dress, all boiled into one rainbow soup. The result? Every piece of clothing in the house turned a sad shade of pink. Socks, jeans, underwear, everything. The wife didn't cry, but her glare could have melted steel. He muttered, "It's just color, who cares?" Careful, buddy. Pink underwear is one thing. Sleeping on the couch indefinitely is another. 17. A man tried to help a lost tourist find directions, but decided Google Maps was too slow. Instead, he gave directions based purely on gut feeling. The tourist ended up 2 hours away, in a completely different city, calling for a taxi at triple the cost. When confronted, the man shrugged and said, "Well, I was close." Yes, if by close, you mean 120 miles off and a personal GPS system for how not to travel. 18. A woman once helped her roommate unclog the toilet by pouring in an entire bottle of Drano, followed by half a gallon of bleach, because double the cleaning power, double the results. What she actually created was a small-scale chemical warfare experiment. The bathroom filled with toxic fumes so fast they had to evacuate the apartment like it was Chernobyl. The plumber who eventually showed up just shook his head and said, "You know, toilets are usually ruined by what goes in them, not by what's dumped on them." She defended herself by saying, "At least it smells clean." Yes, like a crime scene in a janitor's closet. 19. A guy thought he'd help his neighbor trim a tree branch hanging over the yard. He climbed the tree, tied himself to the very branch he was about to cut, and sawed away with confidence. You can guess what happened next. Gravity happened. He and the branch came crashing down together like a tragic duet. He broke his arm, flattened a section of the neighbor's fence, and left behind a stump that looked like it had been attacked by a drunk lumberjack. His excuse? "I thought it would swing the other way." Buddy, it's a tree branch, not a piñata. 20. An employee tried to help their boss with a PowerPoint presentation by making it more exciting. They added transition effects to every single slide, swirls, spins, checkerboard dissolves, the works. By the time the slideshow actually played, it looked like a 1998 Windows screensaver on meth. The CEO sat there squinting, the audience tried not to laugh, and the client left with a migraine. The boss's reaction? "You turned my quarterly report into a circus." The employee's defense? "I thought it needed more flair." Yeah, if flair means motion sickness. 21. A husband thought it would be helpful to assemble his wife's new IKEA dresser while she was out. He skipped the instructions because, of course, real men don't need diagrams. 3 hours later, the dresser had one drawer upside down, another glued shut, and the entire thing leaned like it was trying to escape. She came home to a wooden disaster that looked like abstract art. His response: "It still holds clothes." Technically, yes, if your clothes are folded into the shape of a parallelogram. 22. A woman once offered to help her friend color her hair at home instead of paying for a salon. She confused the bottles, swapped the developer with bleach, and applied it like she was painting a fence. 30 minutes later, her friend had bright orange hair that could signal ships at sea. She panicked, tried to fix it by adding dark dye, and ended up with something resembling a calico cat. The friend had to wear a hat for 2 weeks. Her excuse? "I was trying to save you money." Yeah, nothing saves money like 2 emergency salon visits and permanent trust issues. 23. A guy once tried to help a woman with her broken-down car by pouring water into the oil tank. He claimed he saw it in a movie once, which is the mechanical equivalent of saying you learned heart surgery from Grey's Anatomy. The car didn't just fail, it wheezed, smoked, and died in the most dramatic way possible, like it was auditioning for an Oscar. When asked why he thought water went in the engine, he said, "Well, the car drinks gas, right? It probably gets thirsty." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why some people should never be near a toolbox. 24. A mother decided to help her daughter relax before an exam by sneaking some calming tea into her thermos. Except it wasn't tea. It was a leftover herbal concoction her aunt used for insomnia. The girl showed up to her test so calm she literally fell asleep halfway through question 3. When she woke up, her exam was over and her grade was gone. The mom shrugged and said, "At least you weren't stressed." Which is like saying, "Sure, you crashed the car, but at least the music was nice." 25. A man once thought he'd help his office during a power outage by bringing in his personal generator. Noble idea. Unfortunately, he set it up indoors, in the break room, with no ventilation. Within 20 minutes, the office was full of carbon monoxide and employees were staggering around like zombies in a B-movie. The fire department had to drag everyone outside, and the generator guy kept insisting, "But the lights are on." Yeah, and so were the carbon monoxide detectors, screaming like banshees. 26. A dad once decided to help his son learn how to drive by taking him straight to the freeway for his very first lesson. Not a quiet parking lot, not an empty neighborhood street. The freeway where cars were flying by at 70 miles an hour. Within 5 minutes, the kid had sideswiped a guardrail, almost caused 3 accidents, and was crying behind the wheel. The dad's review of the experience? Baptism by fire. More like baptism by insurance claim. 27. A friend once tried to help with Thanksgiving dinner by carving the turkey early, so it would be easier later. Except he carved it while it was still raw. The result was a mangled carcass that looks like a crime scene, half-cooked meat scattered across the counter, and a family left gnawing on dry scraps. His defense? "I thought I was saving time." Right, because nothing says holiday spirit like salmonella. 28. A man offered to help at his friend's garage sale by pricing items. He had no concept of value, so he put a $50 tag on a used blender and $2 on an antique chair worth hundreds. Customers left with treasure, his friend lost a fortune, and he proudly said, "I think we did great." No, you didn't do great. You hosted the world's dumbest Black Friday. 29. A neighbor once thought he'd be helpful by mowing the lawn of the house next door while they were on vacation. Unfortunately, he confused fertilizer with weed killer and generously coated the entire yard. By the time the family came back, their lush green lawn looked like the set of Mad Max. His defense? It'll grow back. Technically true, but not before the HOA sent a letter labeling the yard an eyesore. 30. A man once tried to help a stranded hiker by calling for rescue, but he dialed the wrong number repeatedly and left increasingly frantic voicemails for Pizza Hut. The hiker eventually found his way back, starving and furious, while somewhere a pizza manager sat listening to messages like, "We need urgent assistance on the mountain, please bring help." To be fair, Pizza Hut could have at least brought breadsticks. 31. A friend once offered to help babysit by letting the kids watch his DVD collection. Except his collection didn't include Disney movies, it included horror flicks. He fell asleep, woke up 2 hours later to find a group of traumatized children watching The Exorcist. The kids screamed, the parents came home early, and he said, they asked for something exciting. Yeah, nothing says childcare like permanent nightmares. 32. A husband once tried to help unclog the garbage disposal by sticking his hand inside while it was still plugged in. One slip, one accidental button push, and suddenly he was starring in his own horror movie. Luckily, he survived with a few cuts and a shredded glove, but the disposal was ruined. His wife's reaction? You almost lost a hand over a potato peel. His? At least I fixed it. Fixed it? You fixed the marriage into therapy. 33. A tourist once decided to help feed the monkeys at a wildlife park despite 10 giant signs saying not to. Within seconds, he was swarmed, his bag was stolen, and the monkeys ran off with his wallet and snacks. He went to the rangers complaining, "The monkeys robbed me." No, you robbed yourself. They just collected the fee for your stupidity. Nature doesn't need your help, it just needs you to stop volunteering as lunch money. 34. A guy once tried to help his girlfriend by painting her nails for her. Sweet idea, terrible execution. Instead of using nail polish, he accidentally grabbed a bottle of industrial superglue sitting on the same table. By the time they realized, 3 of her fingers were permanently fused together. It took a doctor, acetone, and a lot of swearing to fix it. His excuse? They looked the same. Yes, because when it comes to beauty products, what could possibly go wrong confusing cosmetics with hardware adhesives? 35. A man once helped his friend test out a brand new drone by throwing it into the air like a football. Spoiler, drones aren't frisbees. The propellers immediately shredded his shirt, nicked his ear, and then the drone kamikazed into a neighbor's swimming pool. The friend spent $800 on what amounted to a 10-second demolition derby. The thrower's response? Well, at least it flew for a little bit. Yeah, straight into the record books as the shortest flight since that one guy who jumped off his garage with cardboard wings. 36. A grandma tried to help set the mood for Christmas by tossing pine-scented candles into the fireplace, because nothing says cozy holiday cheer like releasing a dense cloud of burning chemicals into your living room. The smoke alarms went off, the chimney filled with soot, and the family had to open every window in December. Her defense? It smelled good for a second. Right, just long enough for everyone to wonder if Santa's sleigh had exploded mid-flight. 37. A roommate once offered to help by fixing a squeaky bedroom door with WD-40. Unfortunately, he confused WD-40 with spray adhesive. The door stopped squeaking, sure, but only because it stopped opening. The door was glued shut like the entrance to a tomb. The guy had to crawl through his own window for 3 days until maintenance came. His roommate proudly said, "Hey, no more squeak." True, just a permanent reminder that help sometimes comes in the form of full-on entombment. 38. A man once helped his friend move by suggesting they use his convertible as the moving truck. He stacked furniture into the back seat, strapped a mattress to the roof, and drove through town looking like a low-budget parade float. They made it 2 blocks before the mattress launched into traffic and caused a 3-car pileup. His takeaway? At least we didn't have to rent a truck. Technically true, but now 3 strangers are filing insurance claims because you thought your Mazda Miata was a U-Haul. 39. A woman thought she'd help out at a wedding by refreshing the champagne with sparkling water when the bottles ran low. Guests clinked their glasses, took a sip, and immediately realized the bubbly had been downgraded to fizzy tap water. The bride cried, the groom swore, and the DJ had to announce where the actual bar was. The woman shrugged and said, "Well, at least no one got drunk." Yeah, because what's a wedding without disappointment in both love and beverage? 40. A dad once tried to help his kid's science fair by wiring a potato battery into the family's Wi-Fi router to prove electricity is everywhere. The router sparked, smoked, and died instantly. killing the internet for the entire house. His kid didn't win the science fair, but he did win the award for whose project took down Fortnite for a week. Dad's only comment, "I thought it'd be cool." Yeah, cool, like canceling Netflix mid-binge. 41. A woman tried to help by cleaning her friend's antique furniture with a sponge and some bleach. She didn't just clean it. She erased 200 years of patina in 20 seconds. The once priceless heirloom now looked like something from IKEA's Oops section. Her explanation? "It's so bright now." Bright, yes. Valuable? About as much as a folding chair from Walmart. 42. A man once helped his friend take pictures of a car he was selling online. To make it more dramatic, he posed the car in front of a massive bonfire. The flames reflected perfectly off the shiny hood, right before they licked up the bumper and set the car ablaze. The only photos that made it online were of a burning Toyota. Shockingly, nobody bought it. His excuse? At least it got attention. Yes, from the fire department. 43. A teenager once thought it would be helpful to fill the family pool with bubble bath soap before a party, so the water would be more fun. Within an hour, the pool looked like a foam rave in Ibiza, clogged the filter, and spilled suds into the neighbor's yard. His parents returned to find a crowd of kids lost in what looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's final breath. His defense? It smelled nice. Yeah, like lavender-scented bankruptcy. 44. A man once helped at Thanksgiving by thawing the turkey in the clothes dryer. He thought it would be faster than leaving it in the fridge. By the time his wife found it, the turkey was half-cooked, covered in lint, and smelled like fabric softener. Dinner was ruined, the dryer was ruined, and the marriage was on the brink. His excuse? "I thought it was efficient." Efficient at destroying both poultry and trust. 45. A neighbor once tried to help by shoveling snow off the roof of the house next door, except he shoveled so enthusiastically that he actually shoveled through the shingles. By the time the snow melted, the family had a leaking roof, water damage, and an HOA letter about unsightly drips. He proudly declared, "Well, at least it won't collapse from snow." True, but it might collapse from mold. 46. A coworker once helped with a group project by sending the presentation to the client a week early. Except it wasn't finished. It was full of placeholder text, half-written notes, and a slide that just said "Insert chart here." The client canceled the deal, the team nearly rioted, and the coworker just said, "I thought it'd show initiative." It did. Initiative in career suicide. 47. A dad once tried to help with homework by doing his kid's math assignment. Unfortunately, he hadn't touched algebra in 30 years and got nearly every problem wrong. The kid turned it in, failed spectacularly, and the teacher wrote a note saying, "You should probably help your son less." Nothing bonds a family like failing a 7th grade quiz together. 48. A man once helped his girlfriend find her lost earring by using a vacuum cleaner to suck up the carpet until he heard it rattle inside. He succeeded in vacuuming up the earring, breaking it, and clogging the motor. His defense? At least we know where it is. Yes, in the garbage bag, next to your relationship. 49. A tourist once helped a street performer by jumping into his juggling act uninvited. He grabbed a flaming torch, dropped it immediately, and set his own shoe on fire. The audience laughed, the performer screamed, and the tourist stomped around trying to put it out like some deranged tap dancer. When asked why he did it, he said, "I thought I could add to the show." You did. You added third-degree burns. 50. A neighbor thought she'd help by feeding the pets next door while the family was away. She mixed up the labels and fed the dog bird seed and the parrot dog food. The parrot swore at her nonstop for 3 days, and the dog refused to come out of the bathroom. Her excuse? They both eat, don't they? Yes, but not like that. 51. And finally, a man once tried to help his wife by fixing her laptop, which was running slowly. His solution? He put it in the freezer, claiming he read online that cooling down the hard drive speeds it up. 10 hours later, she found her MacBook encased in a block of ice, next to the frozen peas. His final line? Well, at least it won't overheat. And there it is, the perfect metaphor for all human stupidity, the kind of help that kills the very thing it set out to save. Mic drop. And there you have it. Proof that humans can turn helping into a competitive sport of making things infinitely worse. So which one deserves a medal in the Olympics of bad decisions? Drop your vote in the comments, throw me your own disaster stories, and if you actually enjoyed this parade of chaos, hit like and subscribe. Because trust me, the stupidity goes way deeper than this.